truth about ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Iran, and the Caliphate. Founder of The Blaze, former Fox colleague, Glenn. How are you? There he is.
How are you,
Glenn
Sean?
Beck. You don't even need an introduction. We'll just say Beck.
Oh, yeah, right. How are you?
All right, let's start with, you put a Facebook post up on, I think it was Friday. You mentioned me and Coulter and Rush and others.
Right.
And you wanted an answer. Why don't you tell us the answer, the question that you wanted answered?
What I wrote was, and I called you right after, I wrote to you right after I posted it, because you and I are friends, and I wanted to say, I really do want an answer on this. This is not trying to throw anybody under the bus, and it's not trying to throw Trump under the bus. I am really trying to understand how conservatives can look at Donald Trump's record, which he himself self-identifies more as a Democrat than as a conservative or a Republican, and say, that's our guy. Now, I want the American people to decide, and I'm not trying to shut him down. I don't agree with people who want to, kick him out or silence him or whatever. I just don't understand it, because his record is horrendous when it comes to conservative principles.
I guess what it's going to come down to, and I know you said on your radio show today, because I read it on The Blaze on your website, that you and I are at an impasse. I think it's about 10 pages. By the way, I typed the whole thing out on my iPhone. I'm sitting there in my daughter's tennis tournament, I'm sitting there writing you back, and I didn't expect it to go that long, by the way. But I wanted to give you a real, thoughtful answer.
And you did.
But I don't think you agree with anything I said, so what's the point?
No. I do agree. I do agree that our jobs, we see our jobs differently. And we talked about it because, again, you wrote a lot. So there was a lot to agree on. And the things that you said about each candidate, I agree on. And the way you handle things. I'm much more of an opinion guy. And there are candidates that I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk to Jeb Bush. I know what Jeb Bush is going to say. I got it. You have Jeb Bush on because people access these candidates through you. I'm more of an opinion guy.
I give a lot of opinions too. I am genuinely, and I put this in my letter to you, which has gotten, I guess, a lot of media attention. I am currently undecided. And the good thing about the process, I tried to explain this, is we've got 5.5 months. Right. But till February 1, 2016 is when the Iowa caucus is.
And I'm currently undecided. I mean, I have favorites. I love Ted Cruz.
I like Ted Cruz a lot too.
Right, but if Ted Cruz doesn't go, I'd go to Rand Paul. I'm looking at Rubio. I'm still kicking the tires on Rubio and Walker. But there are others that I just...
Everyone you mentioned I like a lot, and I put that in the letter.
But there are others that I would not vote for just because I think they're progressive in nature. I believe that Donald Trump is progressive in nature. He looks for the strong government. And more importantly, I think this says a lot. I mean, again, I want to be really clear, because I think what Donald Trump is saying is connecting to people. And I feel a lot of the things that he says. I feel that we've been screwed by China. We're screwing ourselves. We haven't been screwed by them. We're screwing ourselves with China, with Mexico, and everybody else. I get that. And I want people to be strong and build a better nation, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't want to do it with a guy who has suggested in the past, and I know you've asked him, that he says, well, now I wouldn't do that. But he has suggested in the past, we just take wealth away from people. Nowhere in the Constitution could you find something like that.
I agree with that. I agree with that analysis. Here, I guess, is where the impasse will forever be. And I have... At this point, I think I've asked him every question that I wanted answered, and I thought my audience would want answered. And I argue in this paperback to you is that I think I can best serve my audience on radio and TV by giving them access to the candidates. And many of the specific things that you brought up about abortion, for example, I liked his answer. He knew some kid, a woman that was about to have an abortion. She didn't have it. He knows the kid. It was profound. He changed his heart. On the issue of health care, for example, he now supports healthcare savings accounts. On issues involving the economy, we got into very specific detail. On issues of ISIS, I like the idea of taking Iraq's oil and giving millions to the 5,000 Americans, and the Iraqis should pay for their own liberation. They owe that to them. The perimeter idea is good if it's comprehensive.
Deal, Sean.
What's that?
That wasn't the deal. I mean, I agree. I think that should have been the deal on the outset, but that wasn't the deal. And to go in now retroactively and say, oh, by the way, we're just taking your oil.
Well, this is a different environment because now ISIS controls Ramadi and Fallujah and Mosul.
And if he wants to make that deal, I have no problem with making that deal. But that's different than saying we're going to just go in there, we're going to take the oil.
I understand.
No.
The only thing I would argue back to you, and I think there is a reason for his success, and I think the reason is Republicans are weak and they are timid in Washington especially. The Republican governors have done a lot better. I think they're weak and timid. They have broken so many promises. Americans are fed up. The problems we face are severe. 93 million Americans out of the labor force, 50 million in poverty. We have literally on the world stage, we have exited. And as a result, the world is a less safe place. And I think what he's saying shows strength and conviction. And I don't really care what he said in the past. Where do you stand today?
I do. No, I do. Remember, you were a guy who taught me about what Barack Obama said in the past and got me to care about what he said in the past. What somebody says in the past makes a difference. I will say this. I agree with you on this. CNN played an old clip of me about 6 or 8 months ago, maybe a year ago, saying, if I'm on the other side, you know who the person I agree with, the person I respect on the other side? Bernie Sanders. And it's the same thing. We are so tired with the system. We're so tired with the game playing on both sides. The Democrats are saying, you know what? I'm for socialism. You guys aren't really giving us the real socialism. You're playing this game. Let's go for it. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the same thing over here. I have a problem with Mr. Trump's character, and because of the things that he has changed. I just don't trust that that's what he really means. He's good in promoting Donald Trump.
Yeah, he's good at that. By the way, he's not humble. I mean, you said
he's not. And I also think that's an important trait to have. One of the things that really bothers me about Barack Obama is his lack of humility, that Mussolini stance that he does.
But here's my take. Maybe this is what I would recommend to you. Maybe we can settle the impasse. Because I've interviewed him and asked him specific questions about Planned Parenthood, asked him about his abortion position, I've asked him about his plan for the economy, I've asked him about his plan to battle ISIS, I've asked him about his past statements, I've asked him about the problems that some conservatives have with him. And I feel over time, this is my take on him, and I think you'll disagree, is that here's a guy that has been very successful, loves the country, sees what both of us see. America in decline, and he is entering the political arena for the first time because he sincerely wants to make the country a better place, and he thinks these people in Washington are dumb and stupid, incompetent, and ambitious. And I think he's right.
What part of that do you think I disagree with?
Then that's the point. Why don't you interview him? Bring him on your program and ask him every question.
We've invited him on the radio show, and I have no problem interviewing him. I just don't. My problem is I don't think that he is a guy who has a bad, is going to get in, try to, has bad intent for the nation. Yeah, he's not Barack Obama. He sees the nation the way you and I might see the nation. But that doesn't necessarily mean I agree with his way of getting there. I have not heard Mr. Trump really talk about the Constitution. And I've not, when you say things like, you know what, well, that's just what we got to do. No. We respect the Constitution first. Where are you on the Constitution?
I've never heard him suggest anything that I thought was unconstitutional. Which,
taking
for example,
wealth away,
this president,
just seizing wealth out of bank accounts is absolutely.
And I asked him about that, and he said it was a dumb idea that he would have coupled with a balanced budget amendment that, again, he made it as a businessman. Maybe I'm giving him more credit for the fact that the things that he said as a businessman and as somebody that was appealing to both sides for business reasons, and I don't have a problem with that.
Here's the great thing, Sean. Yeah. You and I are not going to, we're not going to solve this. Mr. Trump is going to play out.
That's right.
And the great thing is,
5.5 months, we'll know.
He causes a crowd. People will listen to him and they'll judge. And you and I, we each have one vote just like everybody else. So what happens, he is in control of his own destiny. There's no press person that's going to hurt Donald Trump.
All right, I got a break. I got to take a break.
Okay,
We'll come back.
right.
More is about Islam, exposing the truth about ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Iran, and the Caliphate. Founder of The Blaze, former colleague, Glenn Beck is back with us. The only thing I could say to people, because I didn't expect to get so long-winded. I'm a talk show host. Maybe that is one of the reasons I did. But I tried to answer your question because,
you did.
You did.
You did a great job. You were very eloquent and you were very kind about it.
Because you asked for a thoughtful answer.
And I gave it.
And I tried to give you an answer. I don't think we're going to agree. If people want to, you can go to Glenn's website, my website, and you can see the exchange.
But would you do us both a favor?
Sure.
Not you, have people do both of us a favor and remain civil. Why can't we have a civil discourse? I mean, Sean, I asked questions of Sean. He answered back and asked questions of me, and it was civil, and we're friends. And we've got to be able to, as a country, pull together and be decent to one another and not say, you're the enemy, you're the traitor. It's ridiculous.
I think that's good advice, but people's emotions run high, and one of the great things about this country is you can say whatever you want about a public figure, and we have to take it because we're in the business, and if you can't handle it, then you probably don't belong here.
True.
You feel the same way I do. I think America's on the precipice. I think we can become Greece. I think without America on the world stage leading, I think the world's in trouble. I worry about this Iranian deal. I worry about the geopolitical ambitions of Putin and the Chinese. I worry about our deteriorating relationship with Israel. So these are important questions we're going to examine in the next 5.5 months.
Yeah.
If we don't get a good candidate, I'm not sure we recover. You agree or disagree?
Oh, I think, Sean, I think that, in the coming 24 months, we are going to see dramatic changes in the world. I think we are, to be real honest with you, and I know you're a religious man, I think we are rejecting God so wholeheartedly right now that I don't know he can protect us anymore. When somebody hands a petri dish and it's full of baby parts and they're like, oh, look, it's a boy. And we don't respond. I mean, a lot of people have responded, but imagine that 25 years ago, this country would have gone crazy. When we turn our eyes, today on my show, I played video of a woman testifying in Parliament against ISIS. And she was crying and pleading and saying, please, I am asking you as a human being, please know what's happening to our women. It was on the front page of the New York Times just 2 days ago about how the Yazidi women, thousands of them, have been taken and they're used as rape devices. And these ISIS members, because it is about Islam, are taking the Quran, they're reading it, showing these 10-year-old girls, this is where it says here in the Quran that I can do this to you. Then they kneel down, pray, violently rape them, and then pray again to thank Allah for it. It's crazy.
Let me ask you about the book, because I just started reading it this weekend. You sent me an early copy.
Yeah.
Is this radical Islam? Is this the equivalent of modern-day Nazism? I suggest it is. I would argue that radical mullahs coupled with weapons of mass destruction equals a modern-day Holocaust. Wrong?
Oh, no. This was planted in the book. We talk about the roots that came also from Germany, but this is the Nazis times 10. They have learned from the Nazis. This is if we can't call it by its name and actually point out what they say. I mean, the thing about this book is this is not my opinion. In fact, fact, this will tell you something, Sean. You know how many people it takes to do a book and how many researchers. Under my name, there's always like 4 people underneath here that helped me write the book, and this is the only one. Everyone involved said, I don't want my name. Don't put my name on this. And this isn't an opinion book. We went to the Quran, we went to the Hadith, we went over to the scholars in the Middle East to say, do we have this understanding right? And we asked them, what does this mean? Does this give you permission to maim, kill, throw acid on, rape, sell into slavery? Yes, it does. Well, so it's time to stop saying that this isn't about Islam. ISIS is uber Islamic, and it's time it's said. Otherwise, we perish.
All right, well said. Glenn Beck, good to have you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.